I feel like you're in trouble. Like you've been bad, and therefore I've sat you in this chair in front of this white wall.
No, you know what? I love this share. I have an uncle who passed. He had ALS, and he had it for like, gosh, I feel like I want to say he had it for like 10 years.
Hmm.
If you know anything about it, then you know that that's a really long time. And when I was younger, he bought me this. It's an antique rocking chair,
Oh wow.
and so yeah, I have it, and I've had it. Gosh, I feel like I've probably had it close to 20 years now. And then when he passed, he chose to take himself off the vent. And when he passed, he and his partner, my uncle was gay. And I say that only because they made a conscious choice for him to say goodbye to family members.
Hmm.
And my mother was already deceased. None of his brothers came.
Oh wow.
None of his brothers came to say goodbye to him. My dad came, and my dad's an 83-year-old black man. He's very confused by being gay and being bisexual, but he came, and my uncle was very touched. But at his memorial, they were Buddhist. They are Buddhist because my other uncle. At his memorial service, he gave all of the female cousins that he was regularly in contact with. I was one of them, peace lilies,
Hmm.
and so we each got this huge peace lily. Um, and two of us still have them, and the other one's killers. I was like, you guys, it's the easiest freaking plant. They like water. Just give them water.
It's
So
true.
I
I
have,
mean, they'll live through anything.
oh, they just like water.
Huh.
So they might kill your dog, but they do like water.
Sorry, Pooch. Shouldn't eaten the plants. Yeah,
So I
that's
have my
disgusting.
rock and my peace lily.
Yay. Well, I like the chair. I do. I do. Hi, Jason. Hi, Marco. Hi, Swami
Jason,
Doug. I don't know if Doug's still here. He popped in real quick. You brought up an issue that I am so itching to talk about, but we have other things to talk about, so I'm going to write it down.
I brought up an issue.
You did just
Oh
now.
gosh.
So, what you mentioned was that your uncle is gay and your other uncle is gay because they were together, and your dad was confused by it because he's a black male and black men are confused about the whole gay thing. And yes, I mean, this is the thing, but it's something that I don't understand. I don't understand the confusion, but it's a big issue in my mind anyway in our community. It really upsets me a lot, and I feel like we need to talk about it. So,
Mark, I'm gonna get offended because you're all like, "Hey, Misty," and
no,
like,
Jason said, "Hey, ladies."
okay,
Hey,
but Mark is all like, "Hey,
ladies.
Misty," whatever,
Okay, so now
Mark.
she's leaving. Now she's pouting.
No, I don't. I mean, I don't think he's confused. I think he gets the logistics. Yes, you, Mark B. Smith. Um,
Well, I mean, I understand that he gets the logistics. Aw, Nikki is my person.
that's a little queen. She has a little crown
Oh, does
on.
she? I can't tell. I'm going blind. I'm in my mid 40s blindness. Oh, and Glenn's watching. Hey, Swoopy. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, it's not about the logistics. I think it's a show of its own, and we have a listener here that may even want to participate. But it bothers me that as people who know what it is to be wantonly discriminated against, it bothers me that this is such a rampant thing in our community. I'm not old, I'm preserved. Um, oh, do you see? Marco says, I'm June Cleaver with a testosterone problem.
No problem.
But yeah, it's something that we need to talk about at some point because I think it's a big deal. But we have other big stuff to talk about today. And this is actually, oh, by the way, guys, welcome to ThoughtFlow. You know who I am, Misty, Lynne, Cauthen. This is my sidekick from the flyover state, Nikki Taylor Stewart, who's not my sidekick. She's like my chatty bestie. She's like the bestie that I talk to like 100 times a week, and we love it.
Western time zone. That's it. You just don't like that Midwestern time zone.
I don't. I mean, the time is okay, I guess. It's the whole Midwestern thing. Though I've got to say, when I went to Chicago last year for the first time, I was like, I don't know what this is going to be like. I'm going to have to like run because I'm terrified. Like they tell you these things about Chicago. Dude, Chicago is bomb.
Wait, what are you told about Chicago? What were you being told?
They make it like, I was kidding about that, but they make it like Chicago's this wretched hive of scum and villainy. It's like the Mos Eisley spaceport, and like nobody should go there, and it's terrifying because this is what the news. I was blown away. I think my flight landed at 4. I dropped my stuff in my hotel room, and I walked and I walked and I walked. I walked around past dark. Somebody told me I shouldn't have done that, but it was so amazingly beautiful. And I was down by the water because there's a beach in the middle of the city. And Chicago is really something. The food, yes, Jason, the food was out of sight. I had a great time, just me, myself, and I. And I can't wait to go again. I'm so bummed about COVID because I was coming out to spend time with you this summer.
So you guys, okay, let's be clear about the cold in Chicago. Let's be clear. First of all, it is called the Windy City because of the politicians and how much they would filibuster and go on and on and on. So that is actually why it's called the Windy City. That's number one. Number two, the Chicago fire, it has been debunked, was not started by Miss O'Leary's cow. It has been debunked. Number three, yes, they did change the flow of the river and they did use to dye it green. They did move the Lake Michigan, which is why it floods when it rains if you're on Lakeshore Drive. But all the people who live here know that. Now, in terms of it being cold, it's cold in the winter when it's supposed to be.
No, dude. No, dude.
Like,
dude.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures where there are waves coming up lapping over the sidewalk and frozen in the air. That's not normal cold, dude. No.
In the winter.
You know what? It gets cold here in the winter too. We don't have water in the sky. It's just frozen like this. It doesn't happen.
Did you guys move the ocean though? So, they did. Like Lakeshore Drive, they literally moved the drive. The drive, if they didn't push it back with concrete, would technically be underwater. And so, but when we're talking about cold, we are talking about January, February, March. Because by the same token, it is like, it can be, don't forget, 25 years ago, I believe this year was the 25th anniversary, we had one of the most devastating and brutal heat waves in this city. Well, I'm not in the city, I'm in the suburb. But in the city of Chicago.
I remember that.
We get heat indexes of, it'll be like 99 degrees with a heat index of like 105, 106.
Sure. I mean, it gets sweaty butt cheeks hot in Toronto too, but that doesn't mean that in the wintertime you don't need 8 layers and a Canada Goose.
I don't know. Like I wear a sweatshirt and a vest.
Okay. I wear 2 pairs of pants. I actually started just wearing 1 pair of pants back in June. So, I'm just saying. Hi, John. But, Chicago is labeled the Windy City, and people have kind of taken that to mean that it's just cold and a disaster. But you see where I'm going? We're talking a little bit about labels today. And this talk today is going to launch our series that we're moving into for the next several shows. Shall I say the title of our series?
We do. We have a title.
It's the Axis of Allies, folks. Yeah, we are crazy because it's the Axis of Allies, because we're talking about, and we're going to be talking to different allies, different points in this allyship discussion that we're all in the middle of. That's right, the axis. We're talking about what a segue. It's fire. But we're talking about, and two, different people who are on different places on this ally spectrum that we're on, and finding the revolution around the axis where we can all come together and work together to create this big thing, which is forward moving progress, for the love of Pete. Like, isn't this where we're all trying to go? So I'm really excited about this conversation. So Nikki and I thought that today we would just talk about like nuts and bolts of it. Like, what is it to be an ally, and what it is. And people love the word ally, man. It's the thing right now. It is the hottest label in town. I'm the hashtag ally, bitches. You know, that's, but what does it mean to be an ally? Do you just want to be a hashtag? Do you want to be, as we talked about the other day, Starbucks girl with her latte and her allyship? Or do you really want to deep dive into what it is to be an ally?
Well, and I know for me, whenever I hear the word ally, I always think of aligning. I think of aligning myself. And I think that ally, in a lot of ways, is a bit more powerful because it's not about being someone's friend. You could be someone's friend and be their ally, right? But I don't necessarily feel like it's the driving force in that relationship. I don't think that relationship is about friendship per se, or the inherent foundation, the inherent guts of allyship is not about friendship. It's really about taking a stand in a position. Hey, Aaron, taking a stand for a position because you are in a better perch, you're in a better place to take that stand and to offer that support. And that's not necessarily about friendship. It's a much larger arc for me. And so I think about the alignment um, of the alignment, the standing beside someone in a show of support, in a position that maybe that person um, that can't be heard, or isn't being heard, or isn't being seen, or isn't being acknowledged. And it's just taking that stand for that person.
I feel like that acknowledgement piece is a huge part of it, right? Because it's not just about saying, hey man, we're so copacetic, we're broski, we are walking the same walk, when a lot of times, you're not walking the same walk. But it's saying that, you've had this experience over here, and I don't know what that is, but I'm hearing you. I acknowledge that that's your experience, and I'm walking with you to support you. It's uplifting. It's not expecting you to do all of the work in educating me, because that's not your job. My job is to learn from you in a way that is not making you the librarian, but in a way that allows me to hear what you're saying, so that I'm not out there representing the wrong thing. And what we were talking about earlier, right? People who claim to be allies, but they don't really exactly know what that means, and they just end up making a mockery of movements. Oh, that gave you a twitch.
Because I feel like it's such a big thing, right? How can you align? How can you ally with, for, about, to me, when you don't even know what the issue is?
Right.
And I do say certain things to people, and I look for a very specific response. And one of my mantras, when somebody white comes up to me, and I'm not mean, I don't like being mean, because militant Black Barbie, there's enough of those. I do think that there are a lot of white people who want to help and who want to learn and who really want to take a step back. But I don't want to give a history lesson.
Nor
And
do you want to give trauma porn either. Trauma
no,
is a thing. Like, people want to hear, Nikki, now how did it make you feel when you were 7 and you were just hopeless and hapless and you were sad and you had no shoes and they wanted you to go to the back of the bus, and then they 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 took your coins, and then they said, Nikki, I mean, what, first of all, it didn't even happen that way. You're like, but that's not really even my experience at all. But
right.
secondly, what's most important about it is that's not a place where you want to go. Don't make me cry, man. Don't you do that to me. I'm going to talk about. Oh wait, now you guys are looking at my backyard. See, I was starting to miss stuff, and I couldn't hit the see more button. I still can't. So I want to frame this because we frame things a lot about race, but there's so many places where allies are needed, and the LGBTQIA. I know there's other letters, but I always miss a few. It's a big deal to me, and it always has been. And I will tell you, one of the reasons is because of my friend here, Mark, who, Mark, people picked on Mark because he liked to play dolls. We played dolls together for hours upon hours through our childhood. And you know what? Didn't matter to me that he was different because he was my friend. And that kind of relationship, that relationship framed me so much. I can't, you talk for a minute. It's such a big deal to me that we're even still friends, and I fucking hate crying. Jesus Christ.
Vulnerability. I believe that is a show coming up in the near future. Vulnerability. So here's the deal. If you are asking someone to teach you about the necessity or the need or the want or the desire, they may have the desire to be an ally. But if you have to teach them why their allyship is necessary, you have overburdened the person who needs your allyship.
Right.
And I also think that that's, know thine enemy, right? Um, know why the allyship is necessary. Know why the allyship is needed. And I'll give you an example. I am somehow on everybody's task force. I am on the CUSD 200. That's my school district. Community Unit School District 200 in Wheaton, Illinois. I'm now on the diversity. I don't even know what it's called. I'm horrible, but it's a task force for inclusivity. That was the word they used. And I simply said to them, and I said, white people, because there's a lot of white people, and there was like a super Greek girl, and she was really happy. No, but man, she had that super Greek name, and she was like all accenty and everything. She was dark. I was like, man, girl, you're like trying to give me a run for my money. So I said, white people, white people, white people, please stop referring to everyone other than white as people of color. I'm like, take a step back. You just took every other nationality, shoved it in a big old gumball machine, and said, this is everyone unless they identify as white. And I'm like, that's elitist. And I said, so in you trying to be an ally, you're already like stabbing your person in the back. You're because you won't even see them as different than all of the other people that they're coming into contact with. You're simply saying, I'm gonna fight this battle with you, but it's the same battle. Like everybody, all these brown people, we all got it's all the same battle, and it's not. It's not the same battle. And
It is.
so when you, it is.
I know it isn't. I'm agreeing with you.
No, no, it's not the same battle. So it's sort of like that's what it feels like when white people, just and now it's so cute, right? Pop or POC in all caps. And I'm like, just because you capitalize something doesn't make it any better.
Now, let me
You know,
advocate this for a minute because honestly, that of all the things that I'm bothered by, that doesn't bother me that much. And here's why. Part of me thinks it's a numbers game. When you look at the demographics of what's happening and continues to happen in the United States. Well, no, not what's happening because they're going the other way, but if you look at the population, you've got all of the people of color in this country and we still aren't quite at 50% yet. And it's kind of like, my thought is if we want to split off and splinter as individuals, I think that's great. Get out there first. Make people realize that you're not going to segment us away and say, oh, hey, brown, black people, you can't hang around with the less brown and less black people and, split it up like that, because it's the division that allows us to be squashed because we can't get enough oomph, chutzpah out there to be heard.
yeah, but don't you feel like maybe the numbers aren't there because they're claiming people, like it's like they're trying to rescind the one drop rule, right? They're like, oh no, she looks like a fairy. Let's throw her let's throw her in the white bin. You know.
Well, but you know what? That in itself is part of the division, right? It's easier. Well, it goes back to passing, right? Well, we've
Right.
decided that you can pass because you're this shade and not this shade. And we create more and more divisions when, it's like, hey, man, if we all get together and say, you know what? Our differences are still our differences. But that collective difference allows us to stand up to you people who want to make us all go away.
Yeah, the DA is awesome. I love a good DA. But the thing that bothers me is I have experienced racism from other races, from other than the Paleys, most certainly from the Paleys. But I have experienced racism based on the white standard from
Mm-hmm.
people who are not even from this country.
Sure.
And that burns my butt. Like that just burns my butt because it's not even your history. It's not your history. And you're stepping into the arena aligning yourself with Shea Whitey. And you've been here for 2 years. And so then there's that allyship, right? You were just like, well, Jay Whitey's got the advantage in this country, so I'm just gonna slide myself over here, even though I know I'm darker than her, but I'm not from this country. I got me a cute little accent. I'm gonna slide over here next to Jay Whitey, and that shit burns my butt.
Yeah, but some of that is education too. Some of that is not knowing. And I believe people come to this country thinking, bye, Jason. Thanks for playing. I mean, playing in our sandbox. We will see you soon. Um, but I think that is capitalized upon once again to create division. I dare say, especially now, especially in the past few years or so, it's coming back around. I think that a lot of people who may have been aligned that way, and some that I definitely know were aligned that way, are
Mm-hmm.
starting to see, hey, this not only for me is this a bad idea, but it doesn't align with, is it a bad idea politically, but it doesn't align with who I am inside. And I have to break this cycle.
Right.
I think that we also have to realize, and neither of us are particularly recent immigrants, but you know what I mean, that I think the immigrant experience is sold kind of the way the beauty standard is sold all over the world. Light makes right. So
Yeah.
immigrants come over, that's what they're going to be attracted to. The immigrants. Oh God, Misty, I can't believe I just said that. Get me some tequila. I've lost it.
Well, it's really interesting. My kid's father, and he's 50 this year. Is that right? Yeah, yeah. But he doesn't speak Greek. A little bit here and there, food a little bit. But he came from that group, so that would be like early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he came from that group of parents who wanted their kids to assimilate,
Right.
and they didn't. He did not go to Greek school. Um, but I hear a bit of an accent when he speaks because he's grown up hearing my father-in-law is hilarious. Um, my father-in-law sounds like, I mean, he's been here at least 50 years. And he sounds like he's been here for like 50 days. It's like, and you go into their house. It's like you walked into a Greek villa. The walls have that little sculpt paint, whatever you call it, and everything is blue and white. And but no, my ex and his brother, no, they were not taught Greek. They lived, and it was kind of weird, right? Because they lived this very Greek culture for sure. But no, they were not. They were not taught to speak the language, and it was about them aligning with their American counterparts.
Right.
You know, um, but by the same token, they're Athenian, and they have a great pride about being from Athens, and they have a great pride about who they are and where they come from,
Sure.
and very, very, very intentional. And so, but it was their parents' goal to, I intentionally had this conversation with my ex because I was always curious as to why he didn't speak the language. And then, of course, when we had kids, it was, um, it came up, but we pretty much knew they weren't going to Greek school. Um, but culturally, there are just some things like my kids for the first year last year had an Easter basket because that is not how you celebrate Easter. And they really, like, I got chided. I mean, they were like, "What are you doing? Why have you kept this from us?" And they, like, my oldest was counting down the number of years that he had not had an Easter basket. And he's like, "What is this thing, this Easter egg hunt?" We managed. That is not how you celebrate Easter in Greek. All of the eggs are dyed red, and there's an egg game that you do, and it was like, wow, we're like strangely in a lot of ways immersed in that culture that we don't even think about it. Like there's certain things that we do or say, but I don't know that that was a benefit. Like their dad not speaking the language, I don't know that that was a benefit, and it was all done under the guise of allyship. We don't want the Americans to, did they say those words?
I
I
don't
don't
think
think they said.
that's allyship at all. I think assimilation is not allyship.
Yes, but it was to align to say that, look, we are not so different. We stand with you, and I understand what you're saying. Fine line there to assimilate, right? Just to merge in, smush, take all the individual aspects off of the plate, right, off of the table.
Yeah, the
Um,
goal's not to stand out. I mean, when you come to a new place, a new country, you wear different clothes, you eat different foods. Nobody wants to
right.
be the girl at the damn lunch table with the stinky lunch. And you all know there was a girl at your lunch table with the stinky lunch. And she was opening her lunchbox like this because she didn't want to get picked on, but she was. And what did she say? I want to blend in. And that's not being an ally. Being an ally would be the girl next to her saying, "Hey, can I have a bite of your skunky sandwich?" That's being an ally.
Did
I
she say I blend in, or did she say I don't want to be different?
I think she said, I want to blend in. I want to become the wallpaper if that's what it's going to take to get you people to forget about my damn stinky sandwich. Because that sticks with you. Those things
Yeah.
stick with you. And kids are nasty little bastards. Well, they are. And so,
Yeah.
and
Poor.
I think that those kind of divisions are what's part of the issue. Like, I love the fact that when people come here, they bring their cultures and they bring their traditions, and I think that we should be allowing them the space to do that. But what happens is you can't bring your stinky lunch to the table because your culture maybe isn't okay, but we can go to the local amusement park and we can celebrate this culture because that one we've decided is okay. And so
Okay.
lines are like this. Who knows what
Right,
is, what
right,
isn't?
right, right. So who came up with cheese curds? Let's just talk about that. Because whoever came up with cheese curds.
I don't know, but I would eat some poutine right now if I could. Canada, woo. Aaron, yes, kids are terrible.
Kids
Kids are
are.
terrible. They have no filter. They're just rude little bastards. But oftentimes they become rude little bastards because of what they've got going on at home.
Yes, yes.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Is that a shout out to the parenting classes you will be hosting in
Listen,
your?
send your children to me. If they live through it, they will be very, very different. Different. I'm just saying, you know what I mean.
Oh my god! My kids were in day camp one summer, and you, you, I don't want to. I wasn't necessarily trying to keep up with the Joneses, but I was sure in the heck sipping coffee with the Joneses, and I would send my kids to these hoity-toity little day camps. And then one summer, when I was doing A camp, I was director of A camp in Chicago, and we were in the underserved communities, aka. And so they went to the day camp, and of course their dad was like, yeah, hoorah, because it was pretty much free versus the 4 or 5 grand we would spend each summer. Because we got two, somewhere we didn't think about day camp when we had two kids. So
I did, which is why I only have one.
we go, and at one point, and they were fine. And my kids know. I'm like, you know right from wrong, so don't act like you don't. And so at one point, the camp counselor there, he just looked at me and he was like, "Do your kids have a lot of freedom?" And I never thought of it that way. I never thought of it as my kids having a lot of freedom. And I was like, "Oh, well, maybe they do." And he was just like, um, "Yeah, because it's so freaking expensive, right, Aaron?"
It's
And then who
ridiculous. It's
who thinks
extortion.
of starting day camp at 9 o'clock, but work starts at 8?
Right. Exactly.
And then they're like, "Oh, do you need before care?" No, I don't. I really just need you to start camp at 8.
Like
That's what I
when
need. I need you.
people need their kids to be covered, stupid. Then you want to charge me an extra $300 a week for that extra
Exactly.
hour. Oh no, you can piss off. It's not happening
So,
here.
but my kids were used to, at the ages of 7 and 9, my kids were used to being able to assess their situation while still listening, but have a little bit of autonomy. I'm sorry, their mother was a dancer and she teaches Pilates. Like, who doesn't, need a little bit of autonomy from now? And so the camp counselor, he's like, they're not bad kids. He's like, I want to be really clear. And he's like, and it's not that they don't listen. He said, they really just go off on their own. They're always within eye shot, and and I can see them making eye contact, and I was like, okay, I will let them know that they must assimilate. They
But it's
must
also
join the group.
independence. And right
Yeah,
off the rails, here we are. But I think that there are kids that are raised to be a little bit more independent. Now, I'm not talking about that free range parenting stuff where parents are like, I do have children, but I haven't seen them in a few days and they may have taken the car and they're 8. Like, not that kind of thing. But I mean, like, you know, there are kids that can go downstairs and, keep themselves busy and maybe even not on a device,
right,
that can entertain themselves. But there are a lot of kids that need to be directed. And it's tough for independent kids to go to places like camp. Harrison hated camp. One, because he's just not a joiner, and two, because he hates crafts. I wonder where he got that from. But three, he hated the fact that it was always about checking in and, doing whatever. He's an only child. He's used to just kind of flying
right,
free.
right. Yeah, Aaron, my kids would have asked a kid, why do you have a bathing suit? Not why do you only have one. My kids would have been like, well, why are you even wearing a bathing suit? But all of that, and I managed to find camps that suited my kids, and that is a thing too, because one of my kids is not a crowd. My Air Bear has migraines. He doesn't do crowds, and so it's really about being in a certain space where he can, to some extent, control his environment in terms of not having to be in a large group. And so here we are again, back to that idea of he has to be comfortable explaining his malady. And he lived with it a long time before we truly understood how much pain he was in. So it's interesting amongst the kids that I spawned, because I got a lot of kids. Of the kids that I spawned, Aries is very clear about his allyship. He's very clear. And when he is not aligned with you, he is not aligned with you. Orion, on the other hand, believes that the world is full of Care Bears and rainbows. And I swear to God, I have a mantra for him. Dude, stranger danger. Because he was born to be an ally to everyone. And he will champion you. You could be all kind of wrong. But my little cosmos floating in the air, Orion, Onion, Little Man, Peanut, Omega Rai Rai, he will defend. Oh, yeah, you spell Orion with an Omega sign. And if you
Like on
got
his
that.
birth certificate, how'd you work that out?
No, but that's how we spell it. But it's an
Oh,
Omega
okay.
sign. If you,
I was like,
yeah,
how does he do
it's an
that?
alpha. Aries is an alpha. Yeah, they're my beginning and my end. Aries is my alpha, and Orion is my Omega. And so his dad started calling him Omega Rai Rai, like Omega Sci-Fi. So he has like
That's
all things.
a lot of nicknames, dude.
Well, I'm gonna read this. Because I'm gonna reel us back in, Misty. I'm gonna read
But
this.
wait, before you even do that, I want to talk about what John posted here. Did you see this? And
Yeah.
it's actually quite brilliant because it's true. He had a professor describe that America is a tossed salad instead of a melting pot. And that is very, very true. If you say that you want to be a melting pot, but you're only a tossed salad, you're always going to notice the differences in everybody that's out there. And
Right.
that leads to division, I think. So then, if that's the case, then it's really important to think about this idea of allies and break that down and stand up for the people who are different, who are the tomatoes. Nightshades give me headaches. I'm just saying. So, sorry to digress, but I wanted to get to John's point before it went too far up the scroll, and I accidentally keep turning my damn screen off, so I didn't want that to happen.
Well, I think the interesting thing, excuse me, I think the interesting thing about it being referred to as a salad, which I really, really like, is because most of the time, when you're talking about a salad, the cucumber, the tomato, the carrot, the radish, the lettuce, the arugula, those all maintain their own identity, even though they're mixed, right? When you talk about a melting pot, it implies that we should all just blah, squish together, right? And so you lose that sense of identity. Everyone becomes sort of, what is it, homogenous? Um,
That's the
but
POC thing versus the
right,
individual. Yeah.
right. And so, and I guess the thing about I'm gonna take us back just a minute, guys. The thing about the POC that also just really irritates me is because I'm African American, and like my girlfriends who are Haitian, they will say very clearly, like Haitians are very proud of the fact that they were the first to say, hell no, we're not going to be your slaves. You know, I don't have that history, and by the same token, she doesn't have a history culturally because she was actually born in Haiti and they have money because most of us realize that if you are Haitian and you are in this country, most likely, I will not stereotype, but most likely you have money. But she doesn't have the experience that I have as an African American in this country and the historical racism against my family. Not that her family has not experienced racism, but the historical racism from this country. And now we have Hoo Ha, Ryan, Deadpool, and
Ryan Reynolds?
yeah, and Lively.
Blake Lively.
There we go. Sounds apologizing because they had their wedding on a plantation, and I'm like, what? Why are you apologizing now? You guys haven't been married for like 100 years, right? You got married like a hot second ago, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. Like you knew that shit was wrong then.
I actually don't think people thought it was wrong. Listen, dude, I keep telling this story because I am still flabbergasted and flummoxed by it to this minute. When I went to Charleston, South Carolina, and I don't care really if anybody listening to this really just loves that place, I have never been to a place that was so beautiful and so positively soul-suckingly wretched in my whole life. I would much rather inject myself with hydroxychloroquine and bleach than go back there. And one of the major things that set me off about that place was the fact that as we're going on our tour where they're just glorifying this slave monument and this slave monument, we get to the damn center of town and they're like, oh, this is the market. I was like, oh yeah, cool, the market. Oh, looks like a nice little flea market. Let's go shopping. I'm like, wait, excuse me. This was what kind of market was it? Like, can I get a loaf of bread here? Oh yeah, you can get this here, you can get that here. Back in the day, you could get your slaves here. Like, this is where they brought the slaves in and sold them. And I'm like, and these people are freaking happy. Put your cheeks back in that chair, Nikki. I have never. I mean, you could probably see my face change because she kind of went from, happy Southern lady to like backing up and walking away. I've never. And dude, they're so proud about it. I can't with that place. I can't imagine. My friends are like, you know what? We rented this great place in Charleston. Misty, would you and Glenn like to come? I was like, no, I am not going to be your cleaning lady. She's like, what? What are you talking about? And that's, I mean, I truly can tell you, it it affects me to this day, clearly.
Well, and I think I just think it's appalling, of course, that someone says with vivaciousness and eagerness, and as if it's a pleasantry. Oh, and this is the market. Not even to drop the tone, not even to perhaps have a cloud appear to overcast said situation, but to revel in that history. I
Because
think,
she's proud of it. And
right.
that's the thing. Even these people that are working on these plantations, there was a whole big, huge story. I think it was about this time last summer. NPR did a story about people who are working at these different plantations, and basically how when they are trying to teach the true history of these plantations, certain paleys are coming to them and saying, you know what, I am on vacation. I don't want to talk about death and pestilence and Black people being fed to alligators. I want to talk about the beauty and the serenity. And what's this flower? And that's a thing. And because it's the South and it's so ingrained into who and what they are, I think that genuinely, until it's really brought up to their attention in a way by someone who's not willing to back down, it's a
Right.
thing. And let me tell you, when we were in Charleston, we had another experience that I won't get into for time, but I was about to say something to this restaurant owner. And as I stood up to say something, my uncle said, "You sit your ass down. We are not above the Mason-Dixon line. You don't do that here." And my uncle is the nicest, sweetest, most jovial man. Those of you who know him, you know Unc. He has never come at me that brusquely ever. He has never looked me dead in my face and got his lips this stiff like this. And I knew he meant it, and I sat down. And if that's the way people down there are treated, you step down. Because down there, your ass will disappear and end up in a bog somewhere. Did I say anything to the tour lady? Hell no. Unc had my arms so hard he was dragging me off that little truck. Mm-mm. No. No, and I didn't even get at that part. Dinner was later on that night. This was supposed to be an 11-day vacation. I was out by the evening of the third day and would have been out a lot sooner if I could get out. I was about ready to run, but then, all around there, that's like death. No, I would have been hanging from a tree. Get me out of here. I have never been any place like that. So back to my point, your point, actually.
I'm here. Get my water.
Sure. I think that, welcome back. I think that everything, all of this has been glorified for so long. Look at Thomas Jefferson, who has been painted as an ally for years upon years. George Washington, painted as an ally for years upon years. And now that the true history is coming out, I think people are really doing gut checks. And I think some people genuinely are appalled. And sure, they should be. But it takes time to get to that point. You don't just wake up and be like, oh my goodness, everything I've learned was a lie, and I'm okay with that. It takes a transition.
But also the allyship. Okay, I get that, and absolutely, we've talked about this, Misty. We've talked about the transition. We've talked about giving people the time. We've talked about creating a space. This is very important to us. Creating a space where many people can join the conversation. And it's not about us agreeing with your opinion or agreeing with your position.
You're supposed to agree with my opinion at all times. I'm just saying.
Shit, dun, 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 dun. So, the evildoer music.
Exactly.
But it's the idea that that's a reckoning, right? That's a personal reckoning to stand in a space where all of a sudden you realize, shit, my whole life I have been led to believe something that really just is not true.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have to face the music. And I think that, that's one of the big things with people being so, just leaving a sour taste in their mouth when a white person demands, they make them demand that they're not racist. And they take it so personally. It's such a, it's like you peeled off, layers of their skin.
You mean
You
demand
know,
are racist?
no, when they stand in demand of the statement that they are not racist, when white people say, "I am not racist,"
Oh, I see what you're saying.
right? It's so staunch for them. It's such a hard position that they take. And when they do that, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. Their facade is cracking. Because what they are beginning to realize is good, bad, right, wrong, ugly, pretty, black, white, skunk. They have benefited time and time again from a racist society.
Yeah. But I also think that, yeah, it's a reckoning, but it's a powerful emotional
Mm-hmm.
shift. And
Mm-hmm.
at that point, it's either I I am seeing this light, and I have to either decide to, take the red pill or take the blue pill, or I'm just stuck. I can't do anything. I
Right.
never move beyond this conversation. I go into my home, I never come out again. I I think that a lot of people who are looking to become allies, not become. I think a lot of people who think that they're allies in their head
Mm-hmm.
have to really be ready and willing to deep dive into what that means mechanically, as in terms of actions, and emotionally and spiritually as well. Getting down and dirty with the research and looking in to what it is and what it means. For example, I have a friend who's like, I've been totally wrong about gay people all my life. It's like, well, how are you wrong? Like, we grew up in the arts. This is something that have been around forever. Like, how are you wrong? Like, did you not, is this like a new thing? And she was like, well, I just kind of looked at it as there were only two sexes. And then I had actually sent an article to her that I'd read in the Atlantic or something. But, if you go back years upon years upon years, in many cultures, multiple sexes and sexualities were not only appreciated but expected. There were very few until we got in this Judeo-Christian stuff. There were very few cultures and societies that only allowed for this duality, and
Right.
that's a huge problem because we're vilifying people for being gay, but how long ago, I don't even know how long ago, they would have just been George or whomever. It wouldn't have been a thing. We create these pickles that we end up stuck in when really what we ought to be doing is looking for ways around them. It doesn't mean that we're all saying that everybody should go out and get frisky with chipmunks. What we are saying is this is a human experience, and our ways of defining it are way too narrow to be acceptable.
Well, and I guess so if you're gonna take that road, I feel like it's one of those things where when people assign a label, and um, I feel like in a lot of ways the sorry, that was the early day home. We've got loud storms.
Losing you.
Um,
You're getting a little. Say something.
I
Okay.
got it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you just got muffly and weird.
Oh man,
You're
it's
okay
so good.
now. Are you having storms?
No, my boyfriend.
Oh, he's FaceTime.
And
I can't hear you. Your hand looks great.
different, better, worse.
Better, I think.
Oh, I get a wicked echo.
Not that again. Oh,
Yeah.
I can hear it too.
Uh-oh. Let me turn my volume down just a bit. Hey, we're still here, guys. Don't mind us.
We are, sometimes, regular TV shows have commercials. We have technical difficulties. It's our idea of a commercial. Better than me singing. Trust me. Any better?
I'm still getting the echo.
Oh. We'll take them off again and let's see how it goes.
Okay.
Any better?
I can hear you.
I'm still getting the echo.
I'm still getting the echo.
I'm at no.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know.
I
don't know what happened. Any better?
No,
I'm still getting the echo.
Okay. I'm at no. Go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, I don't know. I don't know what happened. Any better? I don't know if you're gone, but somebody say something. Type something. Oh, frog piss. Okay, let's try again. There's crazy lag. This is terrible. All right, so let's try again here. Nikki's not back yet. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Hey, babe. Hi, Mark. Oh, yeah, the lag is major. You guys are about a minute behind what I'm actually talking about. So I don't know what's going on here. I don't know where Nikki is. Oh, now I see you. Now you're here. Nikki's coming back. Oh,
I'm here.
hi. Now you're in a teeny little
I
box
know,
at the top of my screen. How did that happen?
I am a teeny little box. How funny.
Oh, and now I'm looking at your room. Wow, we need tech support. Okay, so as you were saying,
It was about allyship. Well, I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna read the definition because it's definitely, you have joined the video as a guest. Yes, that's me. I want to read this definition just because I think it's important.
Oh.
Ally is you're not a member of an unrepresented group, but you're a person or an entity who can take action to support that group. You hold a superior position, and it gives greater overwhelming support. And in reading that and a couple of other definitions, which is why I said it's not about being a friend.
Right.
And so the idea of aligning yourself with someone intentionally and really stepping into this space that they occupy as much as you can, because obviously we're not asking you to change the color of your skin, we're not asking you to do anything like that, but stepping into that space as much as you can and with as much genuine integrity as you can, and that has more depth, that has more scope than putting on a mask or wearing a t-shirt. And there is no wrong or right way to be a true ally. It's not, everyone can't protest. I don't have an expectation that everyone will protest, right?
I don't like crowds.
I take it or leave it, but I have to go to work. I have to work and I have to be with my kids. And that is the makeup of my family. I also have to come back home. And so but I think that there are people who are allies who they really and truly get it. They understand what they can and cannot ask. They go off on their own to learn, to come,
Yes.
to have
Yes.
fruit, honest discussion versus I cannot teach you how to fight the war while the war is raging. And so it's that is to me those are the people when someone says to me, I'm gonna stand out and protest. One of my kids, my dance baby, she's like, I'm gonna go. She's like, I don't need you to go. She's like, I need you to do what you're doing. Girl. She's like, I'm gonna go. She's like, I have the least to lose, and I don't believe that. I believe that every life is precious. But I understood what she was saying. I was really, from her, I was very grateful. Um, she stands in a really good place. But there are many people who I believe want to be allies. I think it's very trendy right now. I think it's very hashtaggy, and that is what we want to discuss. Misty and I came up with this series, and the series is really about. Um, it is not my opinion. It is not Misty's opinion. It is really about us being able to bring people in and have these conversations, so that you get different views based on each of these people's different experiences, which obviously I have mine, Misty has hers, you guys are very used to us, but it's also not a black white thing. I think in this country it's very easy to turn everything, black people to white people, but it's really not. It really involves women, it involves those other than hetero. There's a lot of letters from when I was a kid, and I don't know all the letters. LGBTQ.
There are more letters. IA. Those are the other two. I think there might be more. What was that?
What is IA? Intersex?
Intersex, but I don't know what the A is, to be honest. If anyone wants to share, please do. Um, but yeah, and then there's so much ageism. We've talked about colorism. We've talked about ableism. All of these other areas where, to be honest, voices need to be heard. People need to be seen. The space needs to be created so they can have that form like we have. Now, we've come out and taken it ourselves because that's just kind of the way we are. But at the same time, it's kind of like coming back to the idea of creating a block of people versus allowing people to be in their own little splinter sects. When you create a block, it's easier to be uplifted together. And then you can figure out the nuance later. And I feel like what we're doing here is creating a place where you can come asexual. Thank you. But you can come and you can ask questions of people that you may not meet in your daily life, or maybe you do, but you just don't have the comfort level to have conversations. Well, guess what? We've opened it up. Did you say aromatic? Aromantic. Okay. I
What
the
is A?
aromatic people.
I was like,
Is that people who are allergic to deodorant? Because that's a thing. Anyway, so back to the point. I'm super, super excited. Oh, Aaron, yeah, yes, this is going to be great. But I'm really, really excited about these conversations because I think moving forward, we're trying to create the world that we want to live in. It doesn't get any better. Yes, thank you for that. And I'm sorry, I really misunderstood. All right, guys, it's that time. We got to break the machine, and we have to break it fast, Nikki, because it's already 8:06.
What are we breaking? What are we breaking? What are we breaking?
You know what? There's so much to break today, but I think everybody wants a little bit of an update for those that didn't see our canceled yesterday. I think everyone's probably going to want a little bit of an update about your situation with getting the house.
So as of this moment, We are still in a holding pattern. They have raised the price, but it doesn't look like they've raised the price because they are trying to sell two parcels. And it's rather than it being side by side, which would be ideal, it's front to back. And the back lot, they know you would have to have an easement. No one's gonna buy that lot. There's a house on it that needs to be torn down. My boyfriend is from the country. He could care less that there's a old house on the back lot. He's already figured out a way to get it down. I guess it's like a guy thing. um, but um, so they are holding hostage the front property because they want the back property purchased because they want to get out of it. But they can't do that because it's not one parcel. It is literally two separate parcels. They listed it as two separate parcels. And so what it looks like on paper is that I put in an offer at 95% of the original list. And they said, well, they really need full lists. And I said, okay, got to full list. And they basically questioned my ability to purchase it, regardless of my pre-qual letter, yada, yada, blah, Now, 2.5 weeks later, about 2 weeks later, because they raised the price on Monday, they've increased the price without updating the listing and without answering. They have not accepted, they have not declined.
And there's no other offers. Don't leave that part out.
Other offers. No other offers. They have not accepted, they have not declined. They have now increased the price $200,000. And if you look at the listing, you would be like, what the hell? That little house is for, 600 grand. And so it's like, we know the backstory, and because the realtor is so sloppy, she has not. So when you look at the house, you see a house for sale for $600,000. But what essentially they're asking for is for you to buy both lots. They are trying to package them together, except they are two parcels. And so now we have a lawyer. I don't have a lawyer. My agent doesn't have to have a lawyer to close. And so they're taking her because of the real estate agents. Her behavior is fraudulent. Like right now, she has a house listed. It's really pricing for two houses, but it's only one house, only one description for the house, and it's only the taxes for one house. So there's a lot of discrepancies in the listing itself. And so we are using that apparently in some respects, which they are looking at, you can force someone's sale because they're not removing the listing.
Mm.
And we don't have any place to be except for in that house.
So this has really escalated quite a bit, right? You had a meeting with like the equal housing blah, right?
With an organization that specifically deals with discrimination, housing discrimination, and my agent and her managing broker, because of the regulations surrounding real estate. I don't know them, so if anyone on here sells real estate, I know not of what I speak, but I know that if you have regulations, there has to be someone who governs those regulations, and that is the state of Illinois. And so what they have said to me is they're like, regardless of when you get into this house and how you pay for it, they're like, we have to report her. They're like, how she has it listed is fraudulent. And because there's a group of us in this who understand what's going on, yes, it is a hot mess. But you know what? We're in the middle of a pandemic. Why not play loosey-goosey with real estate? But they're saying that, like, no, basically we have to. So she is going to be reported on two different ends. And I sent in my timeline. That's what the meeting was yesterday. We were discussing the timeline, and it's really interesting because it's been 3 weeks. 2 weeks. We're headed towards the third week. Monday was 3 weeks. Sunday was 2 weeks. this Sunday coming up will be 3 weeks from the time that we saw the house. The interesting thing is we don't realize how much we text. And so when I was putting this timeline together, I was like, oh, it's only been, since July 18th. And when I looked back at the sheer level of communication that occurred in just that small amount of time, I was like, holy cosmos, Batman. And so I literally just had to sit and pull everything that I had from text messages and emails and conversations. And of course, this includes my broker, and it includes, there's a lot of stuff going on, but I am not stepping away. I am not pulling back. I am not going anywhere. And we love the house. And I keep saying that because it is about the principle, but it's also about the house.
Right.
And it's not a car. I can't go to another GMC dealership. It is this house on this piece of land, in this town where I'm raising my kids, and this is what we want. And I'm not walking away.
Well, I think once you can see yourself in the place, it's already yours. It's kind of like when I go dress shopping, the minute I try on a dress and it's like fabulous, I can see myself dancing in it. And then it's my dress. And it doesn't matter what it costs, I'm going to get it. It's the same. And it's even more so when you can see your kids playing in the yard and yourself making dinner, or me ordering out, as the case may be, in the kitchen, whatever it is, you're committed on a heart level.
Yeah.
And so it just needs to happen. But I think the shady boots part of it, we all know, because we all watch $1 Million Listing, that the agent is required to show every offer, and every offer has to be, so that hasn't happened, and you've placed now 2 offers and we know there's no other offers. It kind of gets a little bit easier to say that there's definitely some sort of malfeasance happening.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The thing of it is the couple is retired. They have a house or a cabin someplace else. They still owe a mortgage on the main house. They still owe a mortgage on the back lot. And they keep saying this doesn't work for us financially. And I'm like, how does us alleviating you of 2/3 of the money that you spend a month just to pay for this property between the two, how does us eliminating 2/3 of that, how does that not sit with you financially, when until someone buys one or both of the properties, you're still on the hook for the whole amount? Like, they keep saying stuff like that. And it's like, really? Really? And you can see everything. I mean, the thing of it is that we can see everything. We can see that it is 2 parcels. They cannot lie and say that it isn't. We have everything. We can see that it's 2 parcels. We have the parcel numbers from the city. We can see what they owe, because when you owe back taxes on your house, they just let on. The government just lets, they don't owe any back taxes. But it is rather strange that they bought the house in '94 and they still owe quite a bit on it. Now, what they did, whatever loans they took out, that's not my issue. But you gave a price, we can afford the price, and you're still saying that that doesn't fit with your finances. Okay. So that's where we are. And, it's really quite interesting. And even writing out the timeline and looking at it and seeing like, wow, she questioned my ability to afford this from the very beginning.
Right.
So that's where we are. I appreciate all of the energy. I mean, it's weird to kind of talk about it in public because, like I had a moment, I'm going to be honest, I had a moment of, OMG, why does everything have to be over the hills and through the woods with me? Like, why can't I just do something? Like, why can't I just this is what I want, and then I go do everything that I do has like some plot.
That's why you need the axis of allies. There you go. It's
And
gonna happen.
I said, you know what? It's okay. It's cool. It's cool. I'm good. But yeah, but I do. I appreciate all of the support and all of the energy. And yeah, we're going on a ride. Great space coaster.
Well, listen, we're gonna keep sending it your way because, you know, I mean, it's just BS at the end of the day, and nobody has any patience for BS. So here's to hoping that you get some good news soon. I understand that it's now there's an investigation and it's going to take, these investigations, but I fully believe in my heart of hearts that it's going to happen. And so, sending you nothing but love and, maybe a little bit of karmic debt I would take to make this happen, like just make it happen the right way so that you can get started. It's a new chapter.
Yeah,
Everyone loves chapters.
yeah, I do. Yeah. Oh, well, I gladly take what I can get from the universe, and I'm all too willing to put it back. So I do. I appreciate the massive amounts of energy that I feel it. So thank you.
Well, and thank all of you guys for listening to Nikki and me and our technical difficulties tonight. I think we're going to start playing like technical difficulty bingo. So, at the start of the call, you'll have a list of things that could happen. And if you get the right order, man, it's bingo. I will send you a hand weight and some bug spray. And you you will be better. But anyway, guys, thank you so much. We are looking forward to next week because that starts our Axis of Allies series. We have a guest again next week. I'm going to start at 2:00 in the afternoon on Saturday, working to make sure that we get all the tech straightened out so we don't have any issues. But I'm feeling good about it because this is really interesting and it's something that we can all learn from. So looking forward to seeing all of you then. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you for coming to play in our sandbox, and we will see you soon. Bye, everybody.